am the zoning attorney partner at Goldman Harris, and we represent the applicant for this rezoning and text amendment for 2201, 2227 Neptune Avenue. I'm accompanied tonight by, we can switch, our development team, the applicant, Helm Equities, which is the LLC that the property is owned by, is Neptune Avenue Commercial. The principals are Yael Horowitz and David Escava. They are on the Zoom, but they're not making any part of the presentation. The architect, John Wolfling, is with Datner Architects. And I will be starting the presentation. John will be picking it up. Then
He wouldn't introduce me to his mother.
Did John introduce you to his mother? I don't know. And
Keep
then
going, Carrie. Yep.
the presentation will be continued by our community and government relations expert, Yvette Buckner from the Buckner Group. Steve Fisher will make a couple of comments about the environment, some environmental questions that were raised. And those are our presenters for tonight. The rest of the team includes CMW Strategies, Michael Willows and John Sanchez, who might also be on the Zoom, but aren't actually presenting tonight. So we could move forward. The order that we're going to speak about, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Helm. The order will be what I described, that I want everybody to know in advance that questions were raised on December 18th at the last public hearing. And we are going to be answering all those questions either in the course of our presentation or at the end of the presentation. I'll come back and answer any of the questions that we didn't cover during the slideshow. Our client is Helm Equities. They're a thriving real estate company established in 2008 as an affiliate of JEMB Realty. Yael Horowitz, who I mentioned before, is the principal, as is David Escava. And one of the unique qualities about Helm is not only his experience in developing residential buildings, such as one in Delancey Street, 118 Orchard and 86 Delancey, or on Ocean Parkway in Brooklyn on Catton Place, but they have built wind shelters, one of which is in your community on 2760 Neptune Avenue. As developers who I've worked with, it's really the only one who started entering a community like Coney Island with something really good for the community, something where that's adding a resource that benefits people who live there or live in the area, and are actually showing a commitment to the neighborhood in a very fundamental way with their wind shelters, which are helping families, women and children who are in need of shelter from domestic violence in particular, and other concerns. So that's a really good way of introducing them to the community. The wind shelter has been there for quite a number of years. And as you can see on this land use map, the wind shelter is the tan one on lot 7. And the property they own is lot 1 in purple. And there is another parcel, which is lot 10, and they both say that's the use, which is a manufacturing use. Their property is also being rezoned. It's lot 20. They are aware of the rezoning, and they have indicated their support for the rezoning. So that's block on Neptune between 23rd and 22nd. West 23rd and West 22nd is what we're proposing to rezone. As you can see, the yellow in the area is residential use, 1 and 2 family homes especially. There's multifamily in the tan. There's a public garden in purple opposite the site, and a public school in blue, the Mark Twain School. Some of the other uses in the area include manufacturing or heavy commercial uses, such as the building on lot 20. And Our proposal, we can move on, is to rezone the M12 block, which is where we are, into a mixed use zoning that will allow the manufacturing use to stay not just as a grandfathered use, but as an active zoning compliant use. It could even enlarge, while at the same time enabling our property, our client's property, to be used for a mixed use commercial and residential building, while allowing the Wynn building to remain as a in the zoning as its current use for the shelter. It's not a shelter that people come in and out. Well, they do come in and out of, but it's for people who are escaping domestic violence in particular, because that's the Wynn programs, the Wynn program. So our proposal is to rezone this block to an M1-5/R73 district, which would allow for a maximum of 6 FAR residential, as well as manufacturing use and commercial use. There'll be a text amendment to add a mandatory inclusionary housing district, and there's a waterfront certification. Even though this block is on the creek, there's a waterfront certification, because there is no plan for the redevelopment of Lot 20, the manufacturing district. There'll be no esplanade in the proposal, and no redevelopment of that site at this time. Nevertheless, which we'll explain more later, the environmental assessment did consider what would happen if that site, Lot 20, were redeveloped. So let's move on. I'll turn it over to John to describe the neighborhood and the impact of the proposal.
Thanks, Carrie.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
ahead.
wanted to just put this rezoning in context. This is not an isolated, important rezoning just for the developer. As you all know, there's a tremendous housing crisis. The governor says so, the mayor says so, the city council says so, and the City of Yes proposals were adopted in response, in particular, to the need for more housing. So this proposal is addressing the possibility of building more housing in the neighborhood, as is needed not only here, but throughout the city. The idea is that there should be a little bit more housing everywhere, and this is a little bit more housing here in the Coney Island neighborhood. As you know, there's been a lot of investment in the southern portion of Coney Island, and very little new investment in this northern portion. With this rezoning, we're putting in investment in a mixed-use project, which will bring jobs, commercial activity, as well as housing, and showing an investment in the northern part that has otherwise been without new development or new investment for many, many, many years. Now, John will show you the current conditions, and then also what we're proposing in this project.
Sure. Thanks, Carrie. Yes, the City of Yes is really important background and a backdrop for what we are proposing here. This context is, very typical for what's in northern Coney Island along Neptune Avenue. A lot of low scale, but also some larger buildings on the south side, and some middle scale. You can see the wind shelter here on this side, very colorful, very playful massing, and we pick up on that, and I'll show you some of that, some of how we're creating a building that isn't very much in keeping with that kind of playful nature. Here is the site plan. Just to the north of us, Coney Island Creek. You can see Neptune Avenue is along the south. Carrie described a lot of the context already. But one of the things that I think is really unique about the site is how wide Neptune Avenue is. It is such a wide street. I mean, there's many wide streets going east-west in Coney Island, but Neptune is it's a very wide street. More images of the same. Here you get to really see that kind of playful, that height play that happens within the wind shelter. At the land use, at the community board meeting a few weeks ago, a gentleman asked about some of the windows in the wind shelter. that we're going to be reorienting. So if that comes up again tonight, we do have a reason for a solution for some of the windows that are on this side of the Wynn building that will be blocked by the new construction. But basically, those apartments are going to get reoriented and face Neptune Avenue. Again, Neptune's just very wide street. The current building, which you see here, is really one-story commercial uses, very industrial in nature, glass shops. There is a bakery here, which is a great neighborhood amenity. The developers recognize how important that use is. They've been in discussions with the current owners, which is actually a family-owned business. And the next generation of the family really wants to continue operating here. There's been discussions about them coming back in the new building, which will actually be a vastly improved space for them. Right now, they're very susceptible to flooding, like everything that's built at the sidewalk level. So hopefully when they come back, they'll have much improved space. Right now, there is no housing at this site. It is manufacturing use. And so there won't be any residents that live in this portion of the site that are going to be displaced. And it's the signs are a little junky. The building's showing its age and its wear. So we have some images of what we're proposing here, which I think are a real improvement. Here is the Wynn building. This is an axonometric drawing, just black and white. We do have some renderings that we'll show you in just a little bit. This is the Wynn building. And here is our proposed design that's on the west side of the site. Here's some of the zoning data. Here's that lot just to the north that is not part of the project, but it'll be able to stay as it is with the new zoning. Here is our site plan. Neptune Avenue is to the bottom of the page. It's a very wide street, as I said. West 22nd is here, West 23rd is here, and the community garden is just to the west of us. Here's the existing Wynn building, and we are proposing an 18-story building at its tallest point, but along the street wall, we are proposing a 6-story and an 8-story mass, which you'll see in the renderings how that height change works with the existing Wynn building. But as I said before, Neptune Avenue is a very wide street. We think that it can really handle an 18-story building, much like on the south side, there is the Cary Gardens building, which is, I think, 16 or 17 stories. So very similar size building just across the street. So this is what our massing will look like. And you can start to see how that 8-story transitions to 6 stories and then relates to the 7-story and the 6-story of the Wynn building just to the east of us. And another thing that we've done is we've pushed the darker mass, the brown mass, which is a brown brick, we've pushed that back away from the street wall so that what you see at the ground plane when you're walking along the sidewalk is really this street level use, which is going to be the bakery, potentially other commercial or community facility uses that will really activate that ground floor and that sidewalk level, both with lighting that will be coming from the interior spaces. There'll also be security cameras around the perimeter of the building that will help with security issues. And just the active nature of the variety of uses with all the foot traffic, with the residential entrance, which is going to be along 23rd Street, increasing that foot traffic and having more people in the neighborhood is a passive security measure that works, I think, just as effectively as having security cameras and illuminated sidewalks. So this is what the site currently looks like today. Here's the Cary Gardens building. As I said, a very tall building that's just to the south of Neptune. And our proposal is now overlaid on top of the existing building. And this ground floor that we're showing here is that really open glazed active use. And the sidewalk level is, as you can see, there may be some sort of cafe that's associated with the bakery, but having that variety of uses at the ground floor is really going to activate the sidewalk and have,
Eddie?
can you please mute?
That's good. Okay.
So in addition to those non-residential uses, we're going to have 145 apartments. That's the estimate right now. It's going to be a combination of studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. 37 of those 145 are going to be required to be made affordable through the mandatory inclusionary housing program. And what we're most likely to do is the option 1, which requires that the units are at 60% of AMI, but you can do an average that equals 60. So there might be some 40%, there might be some 80%, but in average, they all equal 60% of AMI. So I mentioned the bakery is potentially going to come back. We have a letter of support from them. Neptune Avenue is going to be very activated. And one of the things that we know is a concern here, and it was a concern before the wind building was built, was the lack of activity here really kind of allowed for some behavior that's, I don't think we would all want to have in our neighborhoods. And when that wind building was built, it started to change that. And this project, I think, will really make that difference even more dramatic with all that street traffic that I mentioned. In a city planning hearing about this project from a few weeks ago, one of the commissioners asked about flood resiliency. And this building will actually improve the neighborhood's resiliency with regards to stormwater events and extreme events on a kind of like week to week kind of more standard basis. Whenever there is a rainfall, whenever there's rain that happens, this building will be designed to meet the current Department of Environmental Protection standards, the organization, the agency that maintains all the stormwater infrastructure in the streets. So they have requirements that during a stormwater event, new buildings like this be designed to retain stormwater within catchment basins on site and then release that water into the DEP infrastructure very slowly. So it helps to even out that stormwater flow. Right now, what happens is that stormwater hits the roof of the building and goes right into that infrastructure. So the stormwater infrastructure can get overwhelmed very easily, and this building's stormwater design will help mitigate those issues. There's also going to be a parking level that is below the building where we're going to be able to park cars for the building uses and both the residential and the non-residential, the commercial uses. And that's kind of a half level below. And that's going to basically create an area where stormwater can actually be collected and not damage any of the uses that will be at the ground level. And when I say the ground level, I actually mean it's going to be elevated. It's going to be elevated above what's called a design flood elevation, which takes into consideration the rising floodwaters, sea level rise. And so when I mentioned earlier that the bakery, when they come back, they'll have an improved space, just like all the other spaces, because it'll be elevated above the sidewalk and be protected from those extreme weather events. So through a combination of DEP requirements, through building code requirements to elevate the ground floor, and also requirements for the building to be to have backup power, that residents can actually shelter in place. They can stay in the building because there's going to be backup power that will allow for certain services to be maintained and the building to be able to be used as a place for the residents to stay, even in extreme weather events. So, Yvette, do you want to jump in now?
Sure, happy
Okay.
to. Good evening, everyone. As they mentioned, my name is Yvette Buckner. I've been working on the government and community relations piece of the project. And I know that there are a lot of you were on attending the meeting that happened about 2 weeks ago. Wanted to just start off very, quickly and address the issues that were raised. And the issue always is what's the impact on the community? And so just for context for a lot of folks, I know that this discussion got went into a couple different directions, but just for context, the way that we were looking at doing this project is that we wanted to go not just far and wide in the community, but also deep. And so the reason why we were able to go far and wide and talk to folks, at NYCHA and at Coney Island Alliance is because the direct impact of the environmental study or the shadows on buildings was not completed yet when we had spoken to them, and that did not impact them the way it does the homeowners right across the street. And so when we wanted to meet with the homeowners, we wanted to have all the answers to the questions. We wanted to go deep and be able to be very sincere and genuine and factual about what it was that was coming to their block in their neighborhood, directly impacting them. And so we heard the concerns loud and clear. The very next day, what we did was I had a street team go up and down between West 18th and West 33rd. They gave out flyers. We talked to folks. We put information in everyone's mailbox. We had a community breakfast that happened on Friday. We did 3 rounds of going up and down Neptune Avenue between 18th and 33rd on 3 different occasions, all throughout the holidays. Got to meet and talk with a lot of great neighbors and residents and hear the concerns, hear their ideas, hear what they wanted to bring to the community, hear how they felt maybe about the size of the project. We had a community breakfast this past Friday, January 3rd. Folks who came, I think some of them are on the call this evening, and they can speak to they can tell, explain to you exactly how they're feeling about it. But we walked out with folks who were feeling more supportive of the project. And we talked to folks about everything ranging again from the height of the building to local jobs to hiring. We've talked to people, at Mark Twain School. We talked to people in NYCHA. So we've really took some time. We heard all the concerns that you all have expressed, and we want to make sure that we were talking to people across the street. And again, some of them are on this evening and can absolutely express those feelings for themselves. I will now we wanted to also address the issues around the community garden, which just for folks, we've also been in touch with all the different residents and different neighborhood voices. We've met with some of the folks at the garden. We have tonight with us leadership from Motivational Monsters. And we're just in continued discussions with the council member, the borough president, and everyone supports the idea of the park being a wonderful local resource, and that's where we're working to get to that place on. Am I now turning it over to Steve?
Hi, everyone. My name is Steve Fisher. I worked on the environmental review for this project. A concern that was brought up during the last community board meeting, especially was in regards to traffic and transportation concerns. As part of the environmental review process, traffic was analyzed. None of the thresholds that warranted further analysis were exceeded. But the applicant is really serious about addressing concerns around double parking, traffic concerns, especially during the construction phase of the project. And we'll continue to engage the community board, Department of Buildings, and DOT if any ongoing issues occur. Just wanted to address that piece of a comment that was received last time, and passing it on to Carrie.
Well, I'm back, and I wanted to go into a little more depth about several of the issues that were raised. First of all, and I'm not doing them in order of any importance, just they're all here. I'm not prioritizing them. About affordability, I wanted you to understand what that means. John mentioned that it's an average of 60% of AMI, and the range means with 10% of the floor area, residential floor area would be affordable at 40% of AMI. And there will also be units at 80% of AMI so that the average comes out to 60. At the The lowest amount of AMI would be $40,000 would be the income limit for a studio apartment at 40% of AMI. That's the lowest. I'm going up to the top, not going to hit every AMI for every size apartment because it's a lot of different numbers. But the highest would be for a studio would be at $80,000 of income, is 80% of AMI, and up to 103 for a 2-bedroom apartment at 80% of AMI. At 40% of AMI, a 1-bedroom apartment would be about, I'm sorry, a 2-bedroom apartment is $52,000 of income. If you have specific questions about in between, I can let you know. Just ask and I'll let you know. In terms of jobs, that was another important question. We estimate 45 jobs in the building right now. And what's estimated based on the environmental assessment is going to be 75 jobs. So there's a net increase in jobs. Those would be both in the businesses that are going to be located in the building, as well as jobs associated with the residential building. So again, an expected increase in the number of jobs that would be generated by this building. The developer has spoken with the businesses that are in the building. He had not spoken to them at the time of the last meeting, but all of them have been contacted and they're aware of the rezoning. None of them will have to leave before there's construction commences and demolition has to happen. And the applicant is speaking with them about who might want to stay in the building, return to the building in the future, in addition to the bakery returning. Steve mentioned construction impacts. I wanted you to know that during construction, both traffic and debris, which the applicants thought they were handling very well, we did hear some concerns by the neighbors, and want you to be assured that there'll be a construction manager and the community board will, the construction manager will meet with the community board before construction starts to explain what the construction schedule is. A phone number will be given to the community board for outreach to the construction manager should any problems arise. And similarly, the neighbors across the street will be able to have direct contact with the construction manager. So if any issues arise, they will be able to be addressed right away. There'll also be an effort to have local hiring for the construction project. None of these issues, we're not close to that point yet, so they don't even have the construction manager yet. But that is a commitment of the applicant to engage with the community for local hiring and to manage any of the construction impacts. I mentioned previously that lot 20 is not owned by the applicant, but should the lot 20 be redeveloped with more than 25% commercial or residential use, it will have to provide an esplanade in accordance with the waterfront public access area regulations. A good question was asked last time we appeared regarding the impact of a building on lot 20 on the creek. And the environmental review indicated that the creek is very large, so only a very small portion of the creek would have any shadow on it at all. And that shadow will move during the day, just like the sun does. And so even the portion that will be in shadow for part of the day would receive sufficient sunlight to maintain the life in the creek. There is a study that we shared that has been shared with the community board. It's in the EAS document, and we gave the community board the link to see that information. I want to close with reiterating that yes, the building is tall. That's proposed is 18 stories. It is set back from the street so that it won't have a feeling of overwhelming people walking down the street or overwhelming the people across the street, especially with this setback. And only 6 or 8 stories on the wide Neptune Avenue. And with a park across the street that allows these 4 corners to breathe. So between the width of Neptune Avenue and the park, there's a lot of breathing room on these 4 corners. So we think that it's the appropriate place from a planning perspective to have a larger building. And here we're allowing a larger building that'll have a mix of uses, and the whole block will have a mix of uses from commercial to the community facility type of use in the wind project, the residential building, commercial opportunity, as well as businesses coming back in. There may be a community facility brought in. The tenant mix is not fully known yet, but it's something that the developers are going to be working on during the further planning process of the building. So with that, if you have any questions, timeline, thank you, John. Just so you know what's coming forward, we are in the ULURP process right now, where we've had the December 17th community board hearing. We're having this land use committee meeting, and there'll be a full board meeting on January 22nd. I believe the land use committee will take a vote tonight with a recommendation. We hope your recommendation is to approve the project. And then the full board would vote on that recommendation on the 22nd, and that would become the community board's recommendation to city planning as to how to vote on this project. Borough President Reynoso will be considering this project after the community board does. And it has, the borough president has until the end of February to make a recommendation to the City Planning Commission. The City Planning Commission has a formal vote by the end of April. That vote is a binding vote. And the City Council would have then until mid-June to vote. Once the project is approved by the City Council, the developer will be in earnest moving towards design, development, and submission of plans to DOB and to Department of Environmental Protection and for utilities. That'll take about 12 months. And then the construction itself will take about 2 years to 2.5 years to complete. So that's the overview, and we would welcome any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for coming this evening and everybody on Zoom. If anybody has any questions, we'll start off with Angela and then the table and then anybody on Zoom. Do you have any questions?
Or also comments welcome, because we have people who we think would like to say comments in favor of the project, and I hope they have an opportunity to speak.
All right, yeah, all right, sure. I mean, right now we start off whoever's present physically here, and then we're gonna go on Zoom. But thank you for the feedback. Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. It was wonderful. I mean, that really looks impressive. What I like about your start with comments, right? What I like about it, that you care about water management, which we have a really hard time recently in Coney Island. So my questions will be, I have a few, most of them about stormwater management. Previously you said, and now you confirmed that you will collect the rainwater and direct it to your parking space, which is below the grade. My question is, how are you doing it? Are you regrading the sidewalk? Are you redoing sidewalk? And what is your catch area? How far are you extending for collecting this water?
I think John should answer that question.
Do you want to listen to the rest? Because they're all about the rainwater management.
Okay, that would be
Yeah, why
great.
don't you continue all of them, and I'll try to answer them all in one shot.
Yeah, they're very easy, right? Then I see that on the sidewalk, if you're doing any work at the sidewalk, which I think you do since you're showing new trees, I would like to ask if it will be possible to do the rain garden, sort of bigger, not just for trees, but bigger area for plants. And if you could consider use a permeable pavers, it's kind of new, they're experimental and not city already using those permeable pavers. They allow the water seep in through instead of go down to the sewer. And the last one about that is I see on the renderings on the one that we have on our page, there is something green on top of the roof and it's not clear. Are you proposing green roof? Or it's just artistic interpretation of some shades. That's
Do you mean
about
this image?
this, I don't know if it's this image.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yes, that one.
That's the same, yeah, that's the
Okay.
same, that's the image.
Okay.
And the last question is a community facility, which you said you will have, or maybe you will not have, but if you have a community facility, would you consider to rent it to local nonprofit at some discounted price? I mean, any nonprofit. I don't have any specific one in mind, of course.
So, John, why don't I take up the last question, then you address the rain?
Sure. Yeah.
Rain. As I said, the tenant mix isn't known yet. And when I said there might be a community facility, the applicants would of course entertain requests by organizations to rent space in the building. And a community facility institution would be permitted as a use. So yes, they would consider having some not-for-profit or community facility, a school, a daycare center, doctor's offices would all be welcome to be potential tenants in the building.
Thank you.
Okay. I love talking about stormwater, believe it or not. So the catchment area, at least I think that was your question, is basically within the property line. So all the roofs within the building are going to be part of the catchment area. The sidewalks are actually not part of the property, and whatever falls on the sidewalks would go to the catch basins at the curb and would go into the DEP infrastructure that way. And so the detention tank, yes, the detention tank is going to be located under the parking facility, and the invert, the place where the water can go into the stormwater piping in the street, it just needs, the height of that just needs to be coordinated with those detention tanks. And the idea is that there is a restricted orifice. So instead of being like an 8-inch diameter pipe, it's a much smaller orifice that allows the water to go through very slowly, and it constricts and controls the amount of water that goes into that DEP infrastructure. And those tanks will be located under the parking area. The rain gardens at the tree pits, that's always, I think, a good idea. It helps create more permeable ground surface. I think one of the biggest challenges that we are seeing in our urban environments is the amount of impermeable pavement that just doesn't give a place for the rainwater to percolate into the ground. So yeah, having tree pits that can absorb that water, having those experimental rain gardens that DEP is doing throughout the city, I think that would be a great idea. But those really are kind of up to DEP to determine where those are placed. You mentioned permeable pavers or permeable pavement. That also is a really nice thing to be able to do, especially in like parking areas or landscape areas that are within the property lines. But DOT, the Department of Transportation, has very inflexible, I'm trying to be polite here, very inflexible requirements for the paving that they will allow on sidewalks. It's partly for safety, partly for accessibility. So though it would be great to have some sort of some permeable pavers on the sidewalk, DOT is really reluctant to do that sort of thing. You mentioned the green roofs. That is a little bit of artistic license, but it's also actually a requirement. The Department of Buildings, there's a local law now that requires that roofs of buildings, new buildings, either have a green roof, which also helps with rainwater and heat island effect, but either green roof or solar panels. There are some exceptions that you can for like smaller areas or mechanical areas on roofs, but the intention here is to, where we can, do green roofs or solar panels. And some of that, the green roofs, is really a building amenity. One of the things that we intend to do in these roofs at the 8th floor and the 6th floor is to have outdoor amenity spaces that are available to the building residents. It's a real draw and a real typical thing that we do in all of our buildings, whether they're market rate or affordable or mixed income like this building would be. I think that was all of your questions.
Yeah, that was all. Thank you.
Okay,
And the
sure.
stormwater detention tank, I think you will be the first one who building stormwater detention tank, unless I don't know, but that's something new. The stormwater harvesting, it's very new and cool things. And I hope you can reuse this water in your gardens.
So what you just mentioned, the stormwater harvesting is a little bit different than what I described here. What I described is really what DEP requires of us. Not that we wouldn't do it anyway, but it's not really a stormwater harvesting technique.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah, sure.
Just a point of information, on West 16th Street, there is porous pavement on the streets. So if you want to see if that's possible, instead of the sidewalk, but in the street, we've done it, they've done it.
Code now, they have to do it.
They have to do it. So if you guys, are redoing the street and the sidewalk on that property line, just look into it. We really would appreciate it.
Where on West 16th? I walk by on.
Hard place to
It's required.
Surf Avenue.
All of West 16th
Huh.
Street.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions here? Oh, Michael,
Okay.
please,
I missed the last meeting, so I got a couple of things to catch up here.
please.
Oh,
Thank you for coming.
can someone take down the presentation so we can see the
Sure.
rest of the,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay. My name's Mike Russo. I don't know if you can see me or not, but, from what I see in the
Oh,
footprint,
wait. Anyone in the room, it seems to me, shut down. I sent 3 messages. Thank you.
the footprint of the building is 41,000 square feet.
Pardon me?
That's- The footprint of the building is 41,000, let's say 42,000 square feet,
The lot area, yes.
a lot area. So your retention area for the thing is gonna have to be about 250,000 gallons of water. And you wanna put it under the garage, which is already on the water, which is in the water table. So I don't know where you're gonna be storing all this water.
So I'm not sure how you came to your calculations, but this
You
is
have
something
to-
that actually gets,
For every square foot, because I just built a parking lot,
Yeah.
for every square foot of thing, you need to retain 6 inches of water per hour. So if you're 42,000 square feet times 6, it ends up being about 250,000 gallons. You have to retain per hour. Okay? So, and you want to put that under the parking lot of 74 spaces, I guess, on a 41,000 square foot thing. You know, you're squeezing a lot of baloney in the bag here. That's what I can say. You know, I'm for the project. I hope you can do it. But you know, there's gonna be a lot of homework that has to get done.
agreed. These buildings are very complicated and you're always making very challenging choices about design and performance. Yes, agreed.
Because like I said, you want to put the retention tax on under the garage. It's on the creek. You're gonna be in the water table. The water table here in Coney Island, at least on Surf Avenue, is at 7 feet. On Neptune Avenue, guaranteed it's less.
So one of the things, I mean, your calculations are, I'm not going to argue with them because, you know, I'm not a plumbing engineer, but the 41,000 actually includes the wind shelter, which has already been developed with some of these considerations. So you have to take some of that area out, about 15,000 square feet out of that 41. So that comes down to like 26,000. So it's
Still a lot of water to store.
you're absolutely right. Yep.
Any other questions? Charlene Davis, Jenny?
Just very concerned about the traffic that currently exists on that intersection of Cropsey and Neptune. So that's something that immediately comes to my mind. Other than that, I like the affordable aspect to this and the jobs also.
Okay, so the question about traffic.
So John, Stephen, can you discuss traffic and what was found or not found under the environmental impact statement?
Sure. So the way that the transportation analysis is conducted is peak hours are analyzed. In this case, there's the AM peak, the midday, PM peak, and then also a Saturday midday. This is when traffic volumes are expected to be highest, when People are going to and from work, going to school, and the thresholds that are set in place. If a project were to exceed those thresholds, then further analysis is required. I think it's something in the ballpark of 50 hourly autos, 200 pedestrian trips. The project's traffic volumes that were generated did not exceed those thresholds. And so per city guidelines and the environmental analysis, it was determined that there wasn't going to be significant adverse impacts for traffic. But, as I mentioned earlier, concerns can come up during the operation of the building, and the applicant has committed to, engaging the community board and any concerns that come up.
Shalene Davis.
My concerns in reference to this, building is that they spoke about the wind, building that's right there at the corner. That building is already having issues with flooding. I have a friend who actually works in that building with the tenants and stuff that are in there. When she knows that it's gonna rain, she will not park down there. Because there's issues there already when it rains very hard in Coney Island. So I don't understand how they would want to, build something else there, knowing that there's already issues with the sewage and the rain and stuff in that area.
As I understand, the Wynn building, there's the parking lot and I think throughout the city, and John and Steve could jump in here, that the city's determined that parking can be vulnerable to water. It's the residents themselves and the apartments that aren't to be, and they're to be elevated. So in the Wynn building, the main lobby and the apartments are all above that elevation where there's flooding.
Correct. Yep.
That's the standard throughout the city.
If you're putting parking down there, and you already have parking down there for the Wynn building, for workers who work there, and they're having issues already where it's flooding and it's backing up. You're gonna put another building there? It's only gonna be the same issues and the same problems.
So one of the things that I mentioned earlier about the building design slowing some of that stormwater entering into the system will help. I'm not saying it's going to solve everything everywhere, but as each building is built that has this more resilient stormwater design incorporated into it, it will help change how the neighborhood infrastructure behaves. As Carrie pointed out, parking is a use that is allowed in wet, flood-proofed areas of buildings. And when I say wet, I mean it's allowed to get wet. When the storm waters come in and that tide rises and there's storm surge, those are areas of the building that are allowed to get wet. We will be elevating the ground floor where there's any residence, where there's any sort of building infrastructure like the electrical switchgear, any sort of meters. All of that stuff is going to be raised 6 feet above the sidewalk, so it will be protected from those extreme events that happen once every 100 years. So the building will be more resilient, and it'll help with the stormwater coming into the DEP infrastructure.
When they build the wind building, was that not supposed to be part of that procedure as well?
Yes, and they did that as well. They put on-site detention tanks in that project's construction. So it's that sort of incremental approach. Each building does its piece to help make the neighborhood more resilient.
Well, obviously, it's not working. It's not working with the wind building. So,
ma'am, I hear you that your friend's car was subject to the flooding. Unfortunately, there's a determination been made that having cars become flooded during a very bad weather event It's something that the law allows to happen. It's not great for your car, but in order to put, if there is going to be parking in a building, if you were going to protect it, then you'd have to put the parking on what's now would be equivalent to a second floor, third floor, fourth floor of a building. And your residential building or office building would have to be above that. And it's just not feasible to do that. It's super expensive to do that. So there's been a determination made, unfortunately for the car, that it could get wet and could get flooded if there's a very bad storm event. We can't change that, and we can't put parking above the ground floor. It's just not feasible. It's too expensive. So I'm sorry for your friend's car, but why don't we move on to other questions?
Michael Silverman?
I have a question about the traffic study. If you can let us know when it started, when it stopped, that would be quite helpful.
Yeah, so the way that the traffic numbers are obtained is through a program called Synchro. And just as a disclaimer, I wasn't the environmental planner working directly on the transportation analysis. I have a broad understanding of it, but we have a traffic engineering team who conducts these studies. So there's the existing condition, which is that is pulled from Synchro. There's the no action condition, which is what could theoretically be built or is the existing condition. And then the proposed project, which is the with action. And so the increment of traffic generated is the nexus between the existing condition and the with action condition. And in this case, the with action represents the proposed project and the vehicles generated from those proposed uses, from the commercial, from the residential uses. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
Not even close. With all due respect,
yeah,
you had a traffic study. It started on this date and ended on that date. Just asking, when was the start date and when was the end date? What dates were picked?
We can get back to you with those particular dates. We don't know them offhand. My experience with traffic studies is that they look at traffic during school. They won't let you do a traffic analysis when school is out. It's only allowed to be done when school is active, so that you can include in your traffic analysis kids going to, families or kids going to and from school. It's done at times of the day when people are going to and from work. So it is trying to look at what would be the peak times for traffic to analyze the impact of a project. We'll be happy to get you the details. We just don't know them off the top of, I don't have that information in front of me. So let us follow up with an answer to that question about when the traffic study was performed.
That would be much appreciated. Thank
Actually,
you.
if we're gonna vote today, we'd like to get all the information for the public to listen to. Getting back, which means we're gonna hold back the vote. If you really did traffic study, look it up right now for next maybe 10, 15 minutes as we ask more questions and get back to
We'll see
Mike
if
and Sim over
we
the
can do
answer.
that while we're on, okay?
Yeah, if you can look at it, I assume you have it in hand somewhere, I assume. Again, I have no idea, but if you look at it for now and get back to us, maybe 5, 10 minutes as you look at it, as
We'll
we
try to
proceed
do that. We'll
with
see.
more questions.
I think Steve can do
That's
that.
right. Don't you have the data? I don't understand this. Don't you have the data? Eddie, you don't have the report? You
Should have the environmental
possession?
assessment statement, yes.
No, don't you have the possession of traffic study in your hands? Don't you have possession of this, or it's mystery?
Personally, no, but Steve might. I'm the zoning.
Yeah, the transportation analysis was included in what's called a transportation demand factor memo, a TDF memo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Steve, can you look that up while we're on?
Yeah, look it up as we give you more questions, because I want to get the answers for the public to know, instead of we'll get back to us when. Because we got to vote tonight, so we'll get it out of the way.
Appreciate that. We will look it up in the meanwhile.
Meanwhile, Zoom.
Let me just also say something about traffic. It's in the client applicant's interest also for traffic to not be a major problem here because
Okay,
may I answer
Also-
further on this traffic question? It's in the client's interest and the applicant's interest for there not to be horrible traffic either. So I know we've spoken to them about any of this type of issue. They, as you know, they're here with the Wynn building. They're building a building that's not a condo. It would be a rental. They'd be renting to the businesses. So they have an interest in things working smoothly. They're in the neighborhood for good. They're not like building and leaving. So they've committed to me that if there are problems, they will help interface with local government agencies and with the community board to make any problems, to address any problems so that if, for example, if there was a problem with traffic at Cropsey and Neptune that wasn't identified in the environmental impact statement, they want to be part of a solution. They don't want to only be something that creates a problem.
another
As a-
question came up was, how much be the rents for the apartments which affordable? How much be the rents?
I'll get that for you in a second.
Okay,
My-
and then we'll go to Zoom. I believe Lucy has the hand up and whoever wants to talk, I mean,
So the rents, I can give you the rents right now is that, the current monthly rent at 40% of AMI before utility allowances would be about $900 for a studio, $1,150 for one bedroom, and about $1,400 for a two-bedroom apartment. For the apartments that are earmarked for people who have an income at 40% of the AMI. At 60%, and I can send these numbers to you if somebody wants to read them later. For 60% of AMI, the one bedroom apartment would be about 1,500, I'm sorry. A studio would be about $1,500, one bedroom about $1,600, and $2,000 for two bedroom if you are at 60% of AMI. And at 80% of AMI, a studio would be about $2,100, a one bedroom $2,250, and a two bedroom about $2,600. These numbers are not set by the applicant. These figures are set by HPD, and we cannot change them.
thank you. Now we're gonna go to, I believe Lucy or.
Excuse me.
Ida, so Ida
Let's-
first,
let-
apologize.
Yeah, let's go in order of the hand raising. Thank you.
Yeah, you're right, yeah. What was there? I mean,
That
Was-
me, am I next?
oh, Ida, yeah, Ida Senoff, please. You need the microphone or are you okay?
I'll yell from here, you'll be able to hear me. Regarding the flooding issues, our problems here are not so much storm surge issues as blue sky flooding. Our outfalls are below the water level at many times of the year, and we got a problem on Neptune Avenue where stormwater comes up from the storm basins on the corner. Now I understand you're putting in a retention tank. That's really great, but the water table here is high to begin with. And I just hope that your retention tanks will be effective if there is a good heavy rain and we're in a period of time when our outfalls are below the water level. That's one thing. Regarding the shoreline, again, my issue is that building next to the shoreline. Now, okay, they're going to need an Army Corps. Now, when do you need an Army Corps permit? If you're repairing a bulkhead, if you're putting in a dock, I'm trying to think. I mean, I get all the permits here, and I'm trying to remember if I ever saw an Army Corps permit for something going up on top of where a building already was. Maybe not, but I don't remember it. DC, okay, maybe if if you give you tidal wetlands permit, and you might need to put in a buffer zone, but we're not getting an EIS. And that was my first issue. And this creek is just one of the most neglected and incredible habitats around. We're on the Eastern Migratory Flyway. We've got more species of birds logged in that creek than they have in Central Park and Prospect Park, and sometimes even more than Jamaica Bay. And if you're putting up a high-rise building on the shoreline, which you're not, but which your EIS will permit, we run the risk of more bird strikes. And yes, we might even run the risk with more bird strikes with your building if the windows, depending on the way the windows are designed. So my concern again is that there are far more impacts here than might meet the eye. And we're not going to have an opportunity to ever find them out or have any input in it because we're not going to get an EIS when that other lot is ever developed. And if the person who owns the lot has no objections to this ULURP, maybe they're thinking that in a few years, not now, but maybe in a few years, they'll develop their lot too. And I really wish that there was a way around this. And to me, it's an issue. I mean, how do we deal with this? How do we deal with we are closing the door on the investigation and the chance to get mitigation for any future shoreline impacts?
So, the EAS was submitted to the community board with the shadow study, as I mentioned, for the.
Yeah, but the shadow study doesn't give you the building near the water. The shadow study.
No, it does. It does.
No, it gives you. I looked.
It was the supplemental, the supplemental, there was a supplement to the EAS that described what would happen with the development of a building on lot 20 together with the building on the applicant's site. Steve can speak to that. And we sent it.
I don't think I got that one.
We sent it into.
Well, it's not just the shadows; it's the whole thing.
No, I know. I understand. I hear
more to an EIS than shadows.
I hear you. I hear you. I understand that there's more to it. This is an EAS, not an EIS, and I understand.
Correct.
Ida, do you mind if I call you Ida? I understand your.
No problem.
I understand your concern. The question about birds, I don't know. Steve can address whether that.
I can answer part of that.
Okay. Good job.
Which is there's current requirements like the DEP requirements, like the elevating the building requirements. It's called bird safe glazing requirements. So you have to have either a pattern on the glass or something that the birds can see so that they don't strike that glass. So that's actually a relatively recent change to the building code, and it's something we would be designing the building for. So
well, that's great, but it's still you don't even have an EIS, you have an EAS. So we're still missing. We have a site. This was an aniline dye factory that operated till 1979. At the end of the day, they would dump all the dye into the water. God only knows what leaked into the ground. Where I understand maybe you'll do some soil testing. Okay, fine. But we're really missing out on the opportunity here to have a more in the future, when future development occurs, we're closing the door on having the opportunity to know what's going on and to have the opportunity to mitigate. And I remember when the wind shelter was built, and I know I asked about soil testing data, and the community board asked for it, and I don't know, I can't swear to it. It was so many years ago, but I can't swear to see if they ever got the data on the soil borings. So we're closing the door here to the opportunity to have more information.
I hear your concern. It sounds to me like your concern is focused on lot 20, not on the proposed development of these applicants. We had originally gone to city planning with rezoning just the Wynn building and lot 1 and 10, which are owned by the applicant. They insisted that the whole block be rezoned, and we've moved forward in accordance with that. I think it's an understandable comment. The environmental assessment statement studied and wherever there was a threshold that was exceeded or not, we did it in accordance with the appropriate standards. So that didn't come up as an issue as a trigger to move towards an EIS. I hear your frustration with this. There's not something we can do about it right here, but you do have that information on the shadow, certainly, and John has been able to address the issue about protecting the birds, and that's where we are.
And also, if I may just step in very briefly, as part of the hazardous materials attachment, which was packaged into the EAS, the historic land uses on both the proposed project site and the waterfront site were taken into account. As part of the EAS, there's an E designation being mapped on that waterfront property, which means that if any redevelopment is being considered, it must, go through the phase 1 environmental site assessment. If any hazardous materials comes up, there's remediation protocols, a construction health and safety plan that must be submitted and adhered to during the construction. So there were considerations for the hazardous materials and potential remediation of the
When
site.
things go wrong here, it's the community that has to be the watchdog. And I'm not going to bore you with the details of projects that went around in this vicinity where there were special permit conditions written into a project, and unfortunately they were not followed. So I wish I could say that I know that all is going to be well and good, but given what has happened around here, it's difficult to say. And that's, again, I'm very sorry that we are closing the door to an opportunity to, have future input and have future information about what is going on at that site. That's it.
Thank you for your concerns. It's appreciated.
Who's next on Zoom?
I think Lucy.
No, Selena.
Selena.
Good evening, everyone. We had our last meeting and we brought up some of the similar topics that we're talking about now. One certainly was what Ida said, having once you open up this door, there's no recourse to have anything else looked at going forward because it's kind of opened, and I'm concerned about that also. We talked about the traffic and asked about where did your information come from about the traffic, because we all know that in the summertime there's a lot of traffic going on, which sometimes, most of the time, school may be out during that time frame. So I think it is important that we get further information as to when this survey or study was done and what time it was done, because we do live here where we know that there is immense traffic on a good day, especially in the summertime. Someone also asked about the last time, the closeness of the proposed building to the wind building, would it be blocking windows and etc. And I believe it was said that it would not, but looking at the picture, it kind of looks like, from what I see, that it is kind of blocking some of that. The windows, the space is very, very close. I also want to ask, the last time we spoke, and I got off for it, so if you're talked about it before, I'll extend my apologies for missing it. About, did you actually get a chance to reach out to the local residents? Because the last time we had the meeting, there was a question of that, and some of the local residents said, who live across the street, they were not informed. So I'm hoping that there was some correspondence, and hopefully some of them are on this Zoom or in this meeting.
Lena, I'd like to reassure you, you probably missed Yvette's part of her presentation that explained there were 3 rounds of outreach to people who live on Neptune between 13th Street and
18th and 33rd.
and 33rd. And there was a meeting on Friday in person with anybody who wanted to attend. And Yvette can repeat what she described for that meeting. And I believe there are some people on the Zoom who did attend, and several of the people who attended signed a petition supporting the project.
Okay, before you say something, one last thing is I'm going to ask, and again, if I missed it, I apologize. Exactly who owns this property? I know we keep talking, but I never hear the name. Is it hidden or?
It was in the beginning of the presentation. The formal name of the company that owns it is Neptune. Neptune, what is it? Neptune Avenue
Carrie,
LLC.
I can find that. Hold
Bring
on a
that
second.
page.
Yeah.
And that LLC, limited liability company, a single purpose company, is owned by Helm, and the two principals of the LLC and of Helm are on the call. They are David Escava and Ayel Horwitz, who are both listening to this conversation.
And the
the
name
other-
of the entity is Neptune Avenue Commercial LLC.
Okay, and the other question you made about windows.
I can answer that if you want me to.
Yeah, I wanted John, if you could
Okay,
show them
sure.
on, maybe bring
Yeah,
up.
let me share my screen again, because it's much easier to show in pictures. Maybe I didn't share the right screen. Hold on. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to show you a photo of what so this is the Neptune frontage of the wind shelter. And there are 3 apartments, 3 units, 3 lines of apartments on the west facade that if we don't do something, those windows will be blocked. But we are going to do something. And what we're going to do is reorient those units so that their windows are on Neptune Avenue. So we're going to take those units and we're going to rotate them 90 degrees so that their light and air comes from Neptune and not the places where the 2 buildings are going to abut together. So that's our solution for that.
And John, isn't there also, you've made the building next door lower, so 2 floors are clear. And is there a courtyard behind that?
Yeah, so that's probably best illustrated here. So this is the current women's and children's shelter, and there's a 1-story base that is at the bottom of the new project that will allow for those windows that are on the along this face to look out onto that open space. So all the rest of those windows that face west are going to have their light and air preserved as well.
So basically, I don't know if my speak. Okay, so basically, you're blocking the windows on the side, so they'll be using the 3 windows that's in front. Basically,
We're gonna create new windows on the front. We're gonna reorient those units so that they face south.
Oh, okay.
But it's only for the row of apartments, the column of apartments, if you will, that are what, the first or the first and second window, John?
It's these 3 windows. So we're gonna reorient all 3 of these.
Right. No, but on the side, which windows on the side?
Yeah. So this 1, 2, and 3 that are here, those are all going to be, and this is kind of a composite image. What's probably the best thing to do is look at let's go back. So these windows that are here, these 3 windows that are here are going to get rotated so that they're on this face.
Oh, you see, like they're
Charge this thing.
Okay.
So you see, they're going to get more windows on Neptune. Right now, they only have 1 window each facing Neptune. And in the future, they're going to have 3 windows facing Neptune. 1, 2, 3. So that instead of a blue wall, there'll be more windows.
Correct.
And then the apartments with windows that are further away from Neptune, those won't be blocked because there'll be a courtyard that you can't see from Neptune, but there'll be a courtyard back there. So those windows won't be blocked.
Correct.
It's a very thoughtful reorientation of those apartments that have only 1 row of one column of windows now, but are going to have 3 windows in the future.
Okay,
Facing Neptune. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Next.
And I also wanted to mention that we've talked about the traffic, and I understand the summer is a busier time here than it's busy there, whereas in other neighborhoods, summer may be slower. And Steve, I think, is still looking up the traffic information. And I wanted to reiterate that the environmental impact statement it requires an E designation. That means an environmental designation. So all of the questions and concerns about hazardous material in the building and that might even be on lot 20 right next to the creek, those have to be addressed during demolition and excavation and development of the project. That's the law.
Thank you. Who was the next on the questions?
I think Lucy.
Oh, Lucy.
Let Lucy go.
Oh,
Hi, how are you?
Let's take down the
Sure.
presentation
Yep,
again.
yep.
I was the one that questioned the homeowners across the street. So if anyone is here from that location, I would like to hear from them. That's the first thing. I also want to say that I'm a little disappointed that you guys did not present all the paperwork to the community board prior to coming. And when I say that, I'm meaning the study, this traffic study. Yes, Karen. I mean, this traffic study. I mean, the petitions, all of that should have been in their hands before we met this evening. So we wouldn't have to be questioning it again. But I also have another question. If there are homeowners here, I would like to hear from them. But my other question is, and maybe I feel like I have a stock in the bakery, but if he's going to be out of business for 24 months, is he being relocated or compensated in any which way?
The discussions with the bakery are ongoing, and the applicant has been talking with them about how they would be able to stay in business in the interim. It's early in their conversations, but this is a top of mind issue because everybody, including the applicant, wants the bakery to be able to stay in business and to come back. We can, when something more concrete is determined, we can certainly get back to the community board, but we're well aware of the popularity of the bakery. And I personally want the bakery to be able to keep making bread because it's delicious. And I think everybody agrees with that. I don't mean to be
personally heard,
but that's a serious consideration. A plan has not yet been concretized for that, but it is being worked on.
Well, you're contradicting yourself because twice you said that the bakery is coming back and that you have made arrangements with them. And now you're saying that there's ongoing discussion. Let me finish my sentence because I let you finish yours.
Sure.
You contradicted yourself because at 3 meetings you said that there was already negotiations that they will be coming back. But now you're saying there is ongoing discussion. So which one is it?
Well, it's both. Negotiation means an ongoing discussion, but you asked specifically about the interim. And I don't know the temporary program, like during construction, but I do know that they want to come back and the applicant wants them to come back into the building when it's finished. I can't address how they'll be assisted or dealt with between when the building is demolished and when they come back. They're not a contradiction. It's 2 different points. So
and is there anyone else in the building that besides the bakery? Because I see an attorney sign, but I don't know if the attorney's there. I've just.
Attorneys aren't. Just the son.
I don't know if the attorney is in the building.
Okay. So again, I'll wait until we hear from the tenants, the homeowners from across the street, if there are any here. And I would recommend, not that I will recommend, I'm requesting for the chair of the board to request that petition because there has been times that people tell us that they have documentations and the documentation never get to the board. Thank you.
I've actually sent it already. I have it in front of me. I've sent it already over to the board, and we have with us tonight. To put you on the spot, Ms. Stark, Barbara Stark, who was at the breakfast that we had on Friday.
Okay, I can speak now. I
Yes,
have
ma'am.
been in this meeting for almost an hour, and I really didn't.
Stop. Wait a minute for a second. Who's
Don't go to
next?
the next question, let her talk.
She was next or?
It was the lady at the breakfast, with the homeowner across the street, answering
Yes,
the.
I am one of the homeowners. I was at the breakfast, and I also was at the community board meeting last month. I heard about this last minute, the breakfast last minute, 12:33, a fly was put in my door for a breakfast the next morning. And we, the homeowners, I'm on West 22nd Street. I have been a resident out here for 41 years. I brought my home brand new, built from the ground up. I've seen really many changes in the community that, are very good. But now I see all these apartment buildings coming up in Coney Island, Stillwell, Surf Avenue, down to West 19th Street. And now you want to put a big apartment building on Neptune Avenue, which is down the street from where I live. I am in favor of you doing something for the community that we all will benefit from. But I really don't think that we will benefit from having an 18-floor apartment building built in that particular spot. If there's something else that you can put there that will benefit the community, I say let's go for it, but not another apartment building. Now, I don't think that we have been well informed about this project that's coming up. Again, I think it's a very good idea because I've seen a lot of changes in Coney Island for the good. When I first moved out here, it was just nothing but lots, but it seems like all these lots have been filled up, but with a lot of apartment buildings. So I don't believe that we will benefit from that because I live here and during the summer it's horrible. They don't clear Coney Island from any affair until like 1 or 1:30 in the morning. I have to listen to car music, cussing, laughing, loud music, horn blowing, and it's horrible. I cannot even go to the store during the day because now I can't enter some of my streets if I drive my car out. So by putting more people on the island, it's not good. We already have enough apartment buildings on the in Coney Island. That's from West 19th Street, from Neptune all the way down to Surf Avenue. It's an island. It's just too many people on the island. So again, I'm in favor of you doing anything that would benefit this community, but not any apartment building, especially, a 18-story high, because it seemed like it's looming over us. And it looks kind of scary when I really sit down and study it. So I don't think we were informed well in advance about this project, just like the shelter. Before we knew it, the shelter was being built. So that's my comment. I'm not in agreement of the 18-story apartment building, but I am in favor of something else that can be put there in that place to benefit our community.
So, Ms. Stark, I appreciate your comments. I think at the meeting on Friday, from what I heard, there may have been a misunderstanding. We thought you were supportive of the project. There is a lot of benefit.
I am.
I hear you. I hear you.
But not an 18-story apartment building, no.
All right, right now, what the city needs more than it needs anything else at all is housing. And there's not going to be more housing unless there are changes in the zoning that allow more housing to be built. So the governor says we need more housing, the mayor, the city council, the city planning commission, everybody, we just adopted a big change in the zoning to allow for more housing. And this is part and parcel of needing more housing. And every neighborhood is necessary to build more housing so we can deal with this horrible housing, homeless housing, and not enough housing at any level. So this is the most important use that we can bring to the neighborhood. In addition, we're bringing this project is bringing jobs. 75 jobs are expected, and there are only like 45 jobs there now, so an additional 30 jobs. And we're helping to preserve a really great business. This bakery will get a brand new place to bake its bread, much more modern than it has now, because the building that it's in now is really old. All of those things, jobs, housing, are all really good for the neighborhood, and you can't get them there if you don't build a bigger building. Now, the other thing that this project is going to be really good for, which was, I know you had trouble getting on the Zoom, but There's going to be improvements just by having a brand new building and people coming and going. You're going to have much better safety on the street. There's going to be lighting. There's
I'm
going to
fine. I'm fine, ma'am. I'm fine. What I'm saying to you, there has been a lot of apartment building built out here from Surf, Stillwell, Surf, down to West 19th Street, up and down the street, even up and down Stillwell. Why do we need more apartment buildings out here? We have enough.
well,
Have you surveyed that area?
I
this
hear you
area?
that you feel it's enough for your sense of what your community is, but from the city's perspective, everywhere needs more housing. The idea is that there's got to be a little bit more everywhere. So
I disagree with you with that, okay?
I hear you.
I believe that there should be, we have enough drugstores out here. We have enough of this and that. We don't need more of apartment buildings, not in that particular spot. You know, there's no other spot out here to put another apartment building, really. You know, that's the only spot that's really available. There is no more. So why you want to crowd us in, put more people here, create more traffic, more people walking? I mean, that shelter was not a good idea. And, you know, in the beginning, it was a lot of problems with that shelter, with the residents that live in that shelter. It's okay now, but it took some time. You understand? So there was really a lot of problems out here. We're homeowners. We've been out here all for 40 years or more. We have to pay property taxes. We have to pay flood insurance, house insurance. You know, we have to pay money to live out here. It's not free. It's not like we live in housing or Niger. It's not like that. We have put money in this community, and we still continue to put money in this community for our property. So our property should be protected by not putting so many people on top of us. You know, we're homeowners. You know, we are homeowners. You put in a big building. We already have Cary Gardens there, and you know all the other buildings out here. Why would you want to put one more out here?
All right, we hear your concern. If the rezoning is in order to put a bigger building to build more.
I don't want a rezoning.
And I hear that you don't want that.
We don't want, and
So
this community don't want it.
I hear you.
So the lady, thank you for coming from across I mean, I guess you live across the street somewhere in the area.
Well,
Any
I
other
live on
neighbors?
West 22nd Street.
West
I'm
22nd
8 doors in from Neptune Avenue. I can go out my door and look right at that shelter.
No, thank you for your feedback. Anybody else from the area on Zoom right now, or nobody else?
I think there's a gentleman, maybe Ken Fitzpatrick, who was at the meeting on Friday.
Who?
Is there a
James? It was only one, James.
On the Zoom.
I don't see them.
We had Ken Fitzpatrick. He said he was going to speak next. We also had Alexandra Fong.
Anybody?
The
Okay,
only person
let's see it.
online is Thomas Sigiano and Mario Caggiano. That's it.
Are you there? You want any comments? No comments, or all right? Who's next? Who's here?
Sorry, I'm just reading the names from that were there. And
They're
who
not
said
on
that they were
Zoom.
on.
Not here to, like, if they're on Zoom, they can talk freely. It's okay, but you know, if they can maybe get them on
Thomas
Zoom.
looks like he's away
Thomas
from
is away from a desk.
And Mario Caggiano.
Mario.
Yeah, Mario.
Okay. Any other comments or?
Yes, there's actually.
This is Mr. Fitzpatrick. Ken, are you on the Zoom? Okay, how about, can I put you on speaker, Ken, and you can talk? Okay, can people hear Ken? Ken?
Yeah, I'm there.
Can folks hear him?
Yes.
Ken,
Yes, Ken, please talk.
Ken, could you please talk?
Okay, hey, how's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, so I'm with Bill Coney Island. My name's Ken Fitzpatrick. We're trying to support the project on Neptune.
Oh, you live there, sir, or are you from agency or something?
I'm sorry?
You live there physically, or you're an agency, or you are an organization?
I work with Bill Coney Island. So we're
Yeah,
trying
he don't live here, so he don't know.
Okay, what's going on? I mean, anybody else? Okay, let's move on, because what are the
Well,
names?
Ken Fitzpatrick,
Ken.
it looks like he works for Bill Coney Island.
Okay, so Ken, yes, sir.
Can I talk, or what's going on?
Yes, sir.
He was trying to talk.
Yeah, can I talk?
Yes.
Yeah, we have to listen. A little bit louder, please.
Okay, so I'm going to continue what I was trying to say. So I'm with Bill Coney Island. We're here to support the project with Neptune Avenue. That's between West 22nd and 23rd Street to permit a variety of different uses, such as addressing housing needs and also addressing economic growth, job creation, enhancing community livability, revitalizing the neighborhood, sustainability, and also supporting long-term growth as well, too. So, you know, we want to see the project get done because we believe that it'll be something that'll be able to help build the community up in a positive way. I do also have other situations out there as well, too, that we're working with our youth out there as well. And then also working on other different situations to be able to help, you know, revitalize the neighborhood. I love Coney Island. I think it's a great place. Been going there for a while since I've been in New York. And, you know, we want to see the right thing.
But sir, do you live in Coney Island or you just have your organization here? That was the question. Do you live, if you don't want to answer, it's okay if you don't answer. You live in Coney Island or you don't? That's the only question.
No, I don't live in Coney Island. I work in Coney Island.
You work. All right, no problem. It's okay. Just, you know, I don't invade your privacy. Any other questions?
I've been to community board meetings before, sir. So you know, we're trying our best to do the right thing. Again, I work in the neighborhood. I've worked there for the last few years. It's a beautiful neighborhood. I know a lot of even some of the people there as well too. So, you know, Coney Island is a part of what I do on a day-to-day basis, and the projects that we have there are really positive and uplifting and doing the right thing for the community.
Thank you, sir. Sheila Smalls, you had anything to say, Sheila Smalls?
You can read the question.
Oh,
Sorry, we also had, if Florence Alexander Pham is on, she was on earlier. She also was in support of the project.
Is she on the phone right now? Is she here?
I'm trying to see on the Zoom if she's still here.
Okay, if she's here, she can talk.
Yvette, why don't you read the petition and who signed it?
Yes.
Ma'am, we're gonna decide how you run the meeting. I don't understand what's going on. Read what? Okay, let's finish the questions. We'll go about that.
You all asked about the people who were living there and who were at the meeting, who were supportive. So I wanted to provide that information.
Is this you want this to?
You're the chair.
Okay.
You're running the meeting.
You can give us names, but if it'd be better for us if they're physically on Zoom, okay, that testimony. If it's okay with you, okay?
Yes, and I have letters also, in which I've submitted over to the community board.
Submit community board, no problem. Submit. Yeah, sure.
Yes,
We're here.
I've sent them over.
But I think it is important, right?
Who's talking?
Sorry, this is Eyal Horowitz, the owner.
Yes, sir.
So I think first of all, it's definitely a pleasure to have been working here. We've been working in this community for close to 10 years. I believe that, you know, as part of the family, women and children shelter, we've, you know, had discussions with the community. We've had discussion with the police. And we've really looked into what it is that we can do to benefit the community. And, you know, some of the issues that we faced 10 years ago that we've mitigated and we will continue to mitigate is a lot of the traffic. At the time, there were a lot of car repair shops that had a lot of cars that were double parked on the street. We personally worked with the police department and certain people from the community to mitigate that. And I believe that we've done a good job, and, you know, and we welcome communication, and we will continue to welcome that communication. And, you know, I believe that you've seen that those double, parked cars have gone away, right? So I do believe, you know, with the community itself, and Yvette had a wonderful breakfast with quite a lot of people. Unfortunately, the reason why I think it is a good idea for her to read the testimony, although I do appreciate everyone coming in during the storm and being able to get on Zoom, there are a lot of people that weren't able to make it due to the weather. If the weather wasn't an issue, they would.
Okay, I'm going to listen to you. The weather is going to affect the Zoom meeting?
No, but for some reason, I agree with you. But for some reason, you know, they weren't able, you know, I don't know why they weren't able to, but they have supported. So if you don't mind, if that can read just a quick letter of support from the.
Let's wait for a minute. You have Charlene Davis. You have any questions?
Yes, he said that they mediated the problem with the cars and stuff and everything. That's not true. I've been to meetings the police department with the 6-0 precinct in the area when they have their meetings and stuff. And those are still issues that are going on in the community right now. So it's not, it hasn't been mediated or anything. They're in the process of trying to get these, places not to park cars all over the place. Because early in the morning, like about 5 o'clock in the morning, a lot of people are leaving from their homes to go to work. You got all the school buses from Mark Twain, you got all the cars that's parked there from the different, mechanic shops and everything.
Body
And you also have the kids that are coming in from, Long Island, New Jersey, that go to Mark Twain. Their parents are bringing them to school, so it's very hectic to get out. It's like as though it's the 4th of July again, and you're trying to get out, and it takes you 2.5 to 3 hours just to get to Cropsey Avenue to turn. It's ridiculous.
No, I agree with you, man. You know,
question,
what
or-
I'm saying, I agree with you. What I'm saying is that as a community, which I am part of the community, right? We try to mitigate. I can't solve every issue. I'm not part of Mark Twain, right? But in the immediate location on 22nd Street, there used to be you would agree, would you not, that used to be, and I'm talking about 22nd Street, a lot more double parked cars. And I believe, you know, those cars are gone, you know? And if they're not, if you have more issues, we're an open ear. We're an open ear.
All right,
Okay.
I'd like to intercede since I'm the lawyer in charge of this presentation and if there are other questions, we'd love to hear them.
Okay.
We understand that traffic is a concern. We've been doing this, process with the environmental review according to all the regulations. As you can hear, the client is more than prepared to help deal with traffic questions. Maybe there's a lighting change, phase change that can be done at Cropsey Avenue to make the traffic flow. Even though it wasn't part of the environmental review, we'd be happy to help the community achieve a better traffic situation, even though it's not clearly required by the environmental review that took place. I'd also like to answer a question that was in the chat about what's going to happen to the community garden. I think Linda Harrison asked that. We definitely are, the garden's not only going to stay there, but the applicants are more than happy to work with the community garden group and with Motivational Monsters. Your council member, Justin Brannan, is incredibly supportive of the community garden, and the applicant wants to make sure that the garden flourishes, literally and figuratively. Because it's a wonderful resource for the community as well as for the building. So the community garden is in good standing, and will benefit directly and indirectly from this project. I understand that Ms. Harrison is also concerned about density. Does the building have to be 18 stories? The building needs to be able to, whether it's 18 or 17, it needs to be a larger building to be able to pay for it being built and to deal with all of the affordable housing requirements, and to be able to put the manufacturing and commercial uses back into the building. So the size of the building is important to be able to make it a viable project. We're really excited about what can happen at the street level as a result of this building, the new businesses and the activity that will happen. We think it's going to make it a much more lovely corner. The way it is now, it's definitely not an asset to the community to have the building that's there now. It's, in my personal opinion, it's pretty ugly.
Thank you.
So I wanted to address those questions from
All due respect, you're repeating the same story again, again, again. We heard how beautiful this building will be a million times. Let's move on, but Sheila Small, the question. Sheila Smalls, would any of the women living in a shelter be eligible for housing for this particular new building? And if so, how many units will be offered? Because you say affordable for who? What are you going to do about the smell over there? Not not a good idea? What's smell over there? I mean, that's the
The
question that
creek,
was
I
asked.
think.
The creek.
Oh, the creek.
You
Okay.
can't do nothing about the creek.
Okay, I mean, okay, but you heard the question?
Okay, so the question about whether the people who live in the Wynn building can move in, I don't know the answer to that. There's a procedure for applying to live in the affordable housing units, and they would be able to apply just like anybody else. The applicant will be, I don't think there's a quote local preference, but they can kind of steer people in the neighborhood to apply by where they post notices about the applications
It's a lot.
deadlines.
It's a lot of it.
Yeah. Okay. Jeff Sanoff, I believe, was next.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I wanted to get back to the question about jobs, because every developer says there's jobs. First you mentioned there's going to be 45 jobs, and then it increased to 75 jobs or so. Number one, are these jobs construction jobs, or are they just jobs in the development? And secondly, are these jobs for the development of this building going to be union jobs?
Those are good questions. The 45 are the number that we estimate are working in the building now. The 75 are what is expected based on the square footage and the environmental assessment statement way they calculate it, is 75 jobs are expected in the future. That does not address whether they're union or not. That would be up to the tenants who rent space in the building. In terms of construction, I don't know the construction job generation. Those were permanent jobs. Maybe Steve knows the construction job generation, and I can't answer.
How many, you said they're going to be local people who are going to be hired for these jobs. How
When-
many out of the 45 to 75 jobs are going to be local residents?
Those jobs are for businesses that would be in the building long-term. I don't know where those people would live, and that's not up to the developer to tell the tenants where they have to hire people from.
Oh, so you mean the jobs that are going to be at the business level?
Yes.
It has nothing to do with the
Construction.
Has nothing to do with the maintenance of the building or anything like
No,
that.
some of them would be related to maintenance of the building because those are ongoing permanent jobs. They're not related to construction. So
Okay.
the 75 would be ongoing permanent jobs once the building is complete.
Okay, and there's one other question that I have about the businesses. I know a lot of people, whether it's in Brighton Beach, Coney Island, or wherever, are concerned about these cannabis shops opening up. Is there any way of having these not open up in those businesses?
We can tell the developers are on the call. They hear your preference. I can't answer for them right now, but certainly they would consider not renting to a cannabis shop.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, oh yeah, please.
Janessa Rose Perez.
That's me. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year to everyone. I am the CEO and founder of Motivational Monsters. I am a small organization out in Coney Island, but more importantly, I am a native of Coney Island, also born and raised there over 41 years as well. So I am very aware of the communities and particularly the Neptune Avenue on 22nd Street. So as you all know, this particular block has been a long time neglected. This is public space and it's a very unsafe space. It's an eyesore. It's a place that has been 3 decades plus ignored, neglected, denied resources. And this is a top tier opportunity to have strategic partnerships with a developer who is highly concerned with, adding resource and urban development into Coney Island, whereas we have several other developers who come in and do not give the same respect to us. In that sense, I think that this project is extremely beneficial, moreover than it is a problem. We do know that traffic is a problem in Coney Island. We do have, it's, part industrial, it's part amusement and residential, and also public city housing. So there's so many different dynamics that every different kind of group faces. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to the economic benefits, the environmental benefits, and of course, as Ms. Harris mentioned, Carrie, the housing issue. So in this aspect are key elements to not only benefiting the community, but actually moving towards a progressive evolution. This is something that's going to happen. I've lived in Coney Island, worked in Coney Island, been in and out of these buildings, these blocks, these areas. I understand the level of safety or unsafety practices, policies, and things that are being implemented, whereas many people don't really know. We throw programs, we do a lot of different things in these communities, actually on the grounds. And so after speaking with Helm and creating strategic partnerships that can benefit not only the residents, but people who work there as well, helping our organization establish itself and programming that helps them understand more about what the community needs. I think it's not only a great opportunity for Neptune Avenue, but throughout the entire Coney Island community. And I'm really, really excited to have this project implemented into Coney Island. I'm in full support. Our organization is in full support. We also have some partnerships with other city agencies, and seemingly so they are in support as well. This brings in tons of opportunity and evolution into Coney Island, and that's what we're about. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming tonight. Rachel, I believe, or?
Yeah.
We're gonna start wrapping.
Yes, hi. Good evening, everyone. I live on 29th Street, so this isn't like a direct issue, but the overbuilding is like, there's just way too much development that is continuing to happen in Coney Island. And one of I believe the lawyer on the call mentioned something about how the apartments, like, their view would be blocked or obstructed or something like that. That is the exact issue that I'm dealing with, because there is another project that is coming that is literally going to obstruct the view of half of the units in my building, and also the adjoining townhouses. When you decided not to make sure their view is obstructed, is there something legal? Like, is there any legal precedent for any building, I guess if it doesn't go against as of right or whatever, that can make it not obstruct the building, like the view of the building that's already there? I'm really concerned about this.
So I can answer the question about protecting views. There is no place in New York where views are protected. Unless you had an easement from the neighbor saying they'd never build taller than your windows. So it's a fact of life in New York City that buildings can be built and they can block your view, whether you live at the 3rd story or, at the 50th story. There can, in some places I have clients buying apartments at the 40th story of a building, and they want to know, is my view going to be blocked? And there might be a building built a few blocks away that's taller than that building. It's unfortunately not something that is protected. And I do understand how one can feel a loss from not being able to keep your view. It's just a fact of life in New York City. This building is not substantially taller than anything else in the area. It's not creating by itself an overcrowding of tall buildings. We're not in the densest part of the city. And it's important to be able, if there's going to be anything built here, regardless of what it is, there's a suggestion that maybe we could build something else there. If there were, maybe there's a market for, a school or an office building and not residential, but the program that's been analyzed here is an apartment building with businesses in it, to have a mixed use community to help keep this neighborhood vital, both for residential use and for businesses, to give you a better tax base. Some people's property values will be improved by this project. And there's going to be good stuff in any change is hard to take, to absorb. This change on the whole is a really good change for the community. And you're working with developers who really are committed to making it work for the community. It may not be perfect, I hear that there are concerns or complaints of what's happened with wind. The clients are hearing this now. They're more sensitive to these issues, and on the next building will be much more mindful and careful to make sure that whatever the negative impacts on the neighborhood are not going to happen. They're here committed to working with the neighborhood, to being part of the neighborhood. And we think it's a great opportunity and look forward to your support.
Two questions, then Charlene Davis, then John Weiss. The question was again, when was a traffic study done? Number two, you were asking for 161,000 square feet. If you don't have this, what you can do as of right, which means you're asking for 161,000 square feet, but as of right, how much can you build? How much more you asking? You're asking for?
So maybe, if John can address the as of right now. Right now, it's an M1 2 district, which is what, 1 FAR?
I think it's 2.0.
2 FAR. So you could build another story on the same building that's there now. Actually, you may not even be able to build.
I think the wind building uses the majority of the as of right FAR, assuming that the existing buildings, the one-story buildings, stay as they are.
Right. So basically, nothing worth building is going to be there. So you can stay with what you have, and one could stay with what's there now, which is unattractive and not a benefit to the community at all. Or there could be a rezoning, and the rezoning would be an advantage, in our opinion, an advantage to the community on the whole. We understand that there are some issues that people might feel is not an advantage, but as a package, the good outweighs the negative. In terms of the traffic, John, Steve, have you been able to find the period of
time? So I think traffic count was kind of a misrepresentation of the analysis that was conducted. I want to reiterate that this is the traffic numbers that were counted or analyzed is a future condition. These are numbers being generated by the proposed build year of the project when it's expected to be constructed and operational. And that depends on a number of factors. For the residential units, census data was collected for the surrounding census tracts. Commuting patterns that came from this analysis were measured. Modal splits, the way that people commute to and from work, whether they use the train, whether they drive, whether they walk. These were all considerations in the analysis. And as far as the local retail, there's city guidance from the Seeker Technical Manual in the transportation chapter that provides guidance on the way that trip generations and are kind of generated based off of square footage counts. So
then
I hope that, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
well, if we're going to be clear, then a traffic study was not done, correct?
A traffic study was done. This is for the proposed project, which is not built yet. So this is the method.
Today, in this calendar year, this past year, was there or was there not a real traffic study done? Not future looking, but today.
So a transportation analysis is done so there's a tier 1. The tier 1 is those thresholds that I mentioned, those peak hour thresholds. Whether a project is going to generate 50 or more peak hour traffic volumes, 200 more pedestrian trips, 200 more transit trips, etc. If a project does not pass those thresholds, then a detailed analysis does not occur. And so, no, a detailed analysis was not conducted as part of the environmental review.
That's a long way to get just a simple no.
I'm explaining context.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a no, right? It's explaining and showing the calculation of what the project, which is what we are discussing, is going to have. And if it reaches an alert, you know, a certain threshold, then, which it does not, then we go on and provide it, but it has not, right? And so what we've done is exactly what is per protocol, which is provide a traffic analysis based on the project that we are discussing. To give you a project study based on today's building, you know what the traffic study is, right? There's no need for that. It doesn't show you anything. What we've done is exactly what is required, which is future study based on future development, which is what we are discussing today. And again, it's important to address that it is in the right number and percentage, and an extensive, and it hasn't reached a number, then an extensive study is needed. I don't know, Carrie, if I said it properly, maybe you want to
put another way. When you do an
Okay, well, we got the answer.
rezoning,
We got the answer. Let's move on. Joanne Weiss and then Shalene Davis, because
That's it.
yeah, and then we need
Can I make a motion?
unless I miss a major.
I make a motion.
Oh, Joanne Weiss or Ms. Davis?
I have a statement that I would like to make. Prior to Sandy happened, that property was called Ida Israel. Ida Israel had GYN, it had a dentist's office, it had a WIC program, it also had a mental health program, which is something that Coney Island really needs, because we have a lot of people in Coney Island that suffer from mental health issues. And I feel that this property would be better used for those things.
For medical.
there is a possibility that that part of the building would have medical offices in it. It's something we've discussed with the applicant. So we will keep that top of mind when they're looking at potential tenants.
Joanne Weiss, you had a question or comment?
He's muted.
You're muted. I
Can
think
you
she's
unmute
muted.
Joanne, please?
Joanne Weiss is muted.
Pastor John.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we
First
can.
of all, just as a point of information to all you people, I give you all the respect for the job you're doing. But if you're basing transportation and traffic issues in Coney Island on something that DOT or the other agencies did a survey on, in the 30-odd years that I'm involved with this community board, I can count on the fingers of one hand when they were right and did anything to help. And the reason why Michael is asking for a time frame, I believe, is because DOT has a habit of doing their studies on a Tuesday afternoon in January, when during the rest of the year, we can have 100,000 people coming into Coney Island. It will take 2 hours to get from Seagate past your development to Cropsey Avenue, and you have to pray that the fire department and the police department can get through on an emergency and somebody doesn't die at the other end. So if you're going to look into traffic, I suggest you dig deep, because coming from DOT is not going to help us.
I understand that there's a tremendous concern about traffic in the neighborhood. When we do a land use application, we have to do it according to the rules that the city sets forth and follow the regulations and the protocols of city planning and of the environmental review division of the city. Even city law and state law tell the environmental consultants how to do the traffic studies. If we didn't do it according to the law, we wouldn't be able to complete our application. So there's a conflict between what the law is telling the applicant to do and what you, as people who live in the neighborhood, say is the reality. And I appreciate that there's that conflict. It's not within our power to change the methodology that the city and the city tells us has to be used to analyze traffic. Having said that, the applicant also doesn't want to create a worse traffic jam than there is now. And so I can commit to you that if you approve the project and the city council ultimately approves the project, that the working with the borough president, with the city council member, with city planning, that the developer will try to exert pressure on all of those agencies, including DOT, to help mitigate and ameliorate a traffic problem. You have my word on that. I think the applicant, IL, who's spoken, he will say yes. Say yes, IL, that you agree that you will use whatever leverage you have as a developer in this neighborhood to improve the traffic situation on Neptune Avenue and in the.
Absolutely, but I think you said it well when you said it before. This is not a condo building where we sell the condo and we disappear. This is a rental building, right? And the intent is to make our building, our tenants, and the community happy. So they stay in the building as long as possible. They get what they need, and it's a reoccurring thing, right? And if there are issues that they don't like, they will leave, and right, and that's not the intent. So the intent is to make sure, like we spoke about the bread company, right? That, you know, that's an amenity to the community, and it's an amenity to the building, to the tenants that live in the building. And therefore it is, you know, important to us, not just because it's an amenity to the community, but also because it's an amenity to the building, right? And traffic is yet another something that is important, along with parking. That is something that we take very seriously to make sure that we mitigate, to make sure that it's important, again, to the community and to the tenants that live within the building, because this is a rental building. This is a building that we have tenants, we have relationships with, that will stay in, and we manage the building the right way, as we have with all our buildings.
And just as an added footnote to that, right now there's no parking for the businesses that are in the building.
Correct.
And in the new building, there will be parking for the businesses in the building. So it will actually take parking off the street and put it inside the building. And so that helps your traffic too. And there's less traffic, less competition for spaces. People aren't driving around in a circle to try to find a space.
Exactly.
So I think we've addressed all the questions you have. And if there's anything further.
Yeah, if no more, and actually also you made a curb cut on the side street, not on Neptune Avenue.
That's correct. The curb
All
cut
right, now.
side street.
Exactly.
All right, and also if no more questions, we're gonna ask for motion. Motions, yes, no, yes, recommendations, or no with recommendations?
Make a motion.
Preferably with motion, positive motions always, you know,
Yeah.
good.
I make a motion to recommend the project.
With no recommendation, just make a
With no
motion recommendation. Anybody want to second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, so Michael Russo in the motion to recommend, and Mr. Silverman, second, you know,
Okay.
another mic.
All right, everyone listen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We've got the people
Are you
on Zoom
on
can't
Zoom?
vote. They can vote.
No, people on Zoom cannot vote, but do you
No,
have
no.
any other?
They can vote. They can.
Oh, they can vote?
All right, as I remember, they can vote. As long as we have quorum here, they can vote. If there was no quorum, they
If
could
you
not vote.
granted them permission to be on Zoom,
Excuse me?
only if you granted them permission to be on Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah, we gave permission to be based on the snow situation,
And
we
are
gave-
we, I'm not a member of the committee, but am I allowed to speak on the motion?
What?
Only the people in the
I am
committee.
not a member of the committee, but may
Mhm.
I ask a question on the motion?
Please.
Yes.
Lucy,
If I heard you correctly, it's a motion to approve with no conditions?
that's on Michael Russo, but Angela, please.
Yes, I mean, I have some conditions about stormwater management. I want to be clear that you can manage what you required and
Don't
provide.
understand, they reply about building department.
Yeah.
DOB is gonna control them.
That's the
Right,
EP.
right, but
That's the EP. You could put the condition in there, but it won't make a difference because that's the EP.
No, whatever, I mean, whatever, again, it's all communication, whatever you like, you
Okay,
can
I
add
just
on.
want to be.
So again, may I ask a question?
Oh, please, Lucy, I
So
apologize, sorry, Lucy.
I believe you said with no conditions, but Michael Silverman was questioning very deeply about this traffic study. Wouldn't you want to make a recommendation that they have a traffic study done prior to the project being built?
Well, we did do a traffic study.
Ayel,
I'm not gonna go another hour with that. I heard the traffic study was done in for the future, not for today, not for yesterday, not for last week. I don't want to sit here another hour. I'm asking the committee chair, will they take because Michael Silverman was very adamant on that. Wouldn't you
But I
want
thought
to
we
place
saw.
it as a recommendation?
Didn't you say you had one? I'm sorry, but if I may, I don't mean to interrupt. I believe that we established that we actually did do a traffic study based on we're talking about a future development. And the traffic study was done for that future development. To do a traffic study for today without that future development is not what the intent is.
That's,
So-
IL, you're actually incorrect. Forgive me, but the environmental assessment statement has regulations and a protocol on how you study the potential impact of a project. We did it according to the book. We
That's
didn't
my
go
point.
out there and count cars, but we did it according to the book. That is what
That's-
is called the traffic study. That was what
Exactly.
was done about a future
Okay,
project.
my question back to the chair of the committee and the members of the committee, my question to them.
But Carrie, did we not, are you calling it a traffic study?
It's what was this type of study or analysis that was required by the EAS.
Exactly.
That's what was done, was what was required by the law.
Yeah. Okay, so I apologize, but the motion, let's redo the motion again, please. All right, so recommendations, Michael Russo is yes, and then we're gonna add on recommendations, please, communicates. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Oh, please,
Because
Joy.
it was said that the people that are on Zoom have the right to vote.
Wait, okay, hold on.
Only committee
Committee
members.
Only committee members can
There's
vote.
11 of us. Only the
Okay, I know
committee.
there's 11 of us because I'm on the committee as
But
well.
there's
And I
only-
was never told that if I was on Zoom, that I would still be
But
able to
we
vote.
have- of course
I
we
was
have-
told that I had to be here.
No, because we have quorum. We're allowed to have the Zoom people, committee members on. If we didn't have the quorum, we couldn't have the people on Zoom.
But we have
couldn't have a
quorum.
vote. We have quorum, yes.
Get ready, we ain't got quorum. Because I don't agree with this.
So what would you,
Then vote no.
let's resolve this, let's all communicate.
Then vote
Resolve
no, don't sabotage it.
It's
Vote
not
no.
that, it's not that I'm sabotaging, it's that, I don't feel that it's right to say, we want to do this and have these other things done. I'm totally against this project.
Then vote no.
Vote no. Just to be clear, what happens? Because you say yes, positive motion, doesn't mean we're gonna vote yes or no. It's just a motion we made yes, and they vote yes or no.
It's either yes or no on a positive motion. You don't normally make a negative motion.
We only make positive motions, to make it more clear. Vote yes, now, obviously you vote yes, no, whatever you choose, your choice. Whatever you choose to vote on, but the motion is made only positive way, but whatever you choose to vote on, that's your choice and, whatever you feel is right. The only thing is about adding recommendations, which means you want to have more parking, you want to have, think something about the water, something about traffic study we may have heard up there. That's all there was, but again, if you say no, voting after, again, it's your choice, how you want to vote, whatever you feel comfortable.
Call the vote.
No.
Okay, so, you want to add recommendations?
Yes, I want to.
Speak to
give
microphone.
my recommendations about permeable pavers. as we
Promo favors,
discussed.
okay,
Rain garden on sidewalk, if you can work it with DOT somehow, and the green roof. And the last one, possibility renting to local nonprofit at the discount price.
I think we should not be a positive vote.
It's not true.
That's not my understanding of how much community work.
Let's go.
Who's saying? Call the vote. Call the vote.
okay, so, any other recommendations, no other recommendations? Okay,
We just went over the bylaws and we just realized that the people on Zoom can only vote if there's an
Ordinary circumstance.
on, what is it?
Extraordinary circumstances.
Circumstances. So the people on Zoom cannot vote, sorry.
have normal
Okay,
winter.
so just only call the people who are here present.
Okay.
I'll call the names out. Okay, Charlene Davis,
No.
Are you calling it?
Hernandez.
Are we able to make recommendations?
Oh, can they just say over here? We went,
Permeable pavers, rain gardens, green roof, and rent to local nonprofit at the discount price.
I think.
and traffic study.
And traffic study.
That needs to be more in depth, and I have a question, so I don't know why there was no outreach done on West 17, 16, 15 and Stillwell.
Unfortunately, I like you a lot, but that's out of order right now.
Okay, but I'm gonna put it in that,
Okay.
I just wanted to bring it up.
What do you want? What?
So you voting yes or no, or what's your choice?
19th Street.
We're in the vote.
Yeah.
Angela,
Yes, with recommendations.
Michael Russo,
Yes, with recommendations.
Michael Silverman,
Yes.
a vote also yes.
What's the tally?
So for 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses, 1 no. I'm sorry, and Barbara?
No.
That's it.
No.
That's it. Motion passed.
5 in favor. It now goes to the full board
No,
as the committee report
yes.
for a vote. When's the committee board meeting? 22nd.
So come back on the 22nd if there's any questions from the general board.
Okay. So
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And we take your comments very seriously and we'll try to address them in reality, not just on paper.
And as we mentioned, we are gonna have the general board meeting on the 22nd. So if there's any other questions that has been unanswered, you can bring it back at that time. And just address it to the rest of the board members.
We'll try to answer that before the board meeting as was requested.
If it's- Yes, and if
as-
not,
so people have the information in advance. We
then that'd be fine. That'd be great.
Is the board meeting in person or
Motion to adjourn or?
is the board meeting in person or in Zoom again?
It's gonna be in person.
At the hospital.
Yes. it's
Okay,
in
good.
person.
This came in.
I'm happy now. I got my strawberry.
Okay.
Please keep the
Okay.
bakery running as long as you can.
Okay.
We'll like that bakery.
Okay.
So do we.
Too.
So do we.
Sorry for the long meeting. I apologize for the long time meeting.
That's gonna be.
Thank you,
All
everybody.
of you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Notes?
Oh, Barbara.
Barbara.
She will thank you for this.
No, she did.
I will thank you.
That's what causes emotions.
What?
We always do pretty much.
And what-
We always do positive emotions. So